I met Ryan at a tech expo 4 years ago. He was smart, grounded, and everything I thought I needed. Within a year we were living together and 2 years later engaged. Our relationship always made sense. Steady, respectful, practical. We never had intense fights or wild highs. Just consistency. People envied how mature we were. What they didn't see was how routine everything had become. Ryan was always working. Late nights, meetings, emails during dinner. I supported him, of course. He was building a future for us. But somewhere in all of it, I started feeling invisible. When his younger brother Liam came back into town after working abroad, it was a surprise. Ryan was thrilled. He'd always said Liam was his best friend, even though they were polar opposites. Liam was unpredictable, impulsive, and magnetic. He lit up a room in ways Ryan never tried to. I remembered meeting him once briefly at a family gathering, but back then he was just Ryan's kid brother. This time was different. He was older, confident, and somehow saw right through me. Liam was supposed to stay a week, help out with wedding planning, and leave. Instead, he ended up staying at our apartment. Ryan insisted, and I didn't argue. At first, I was just trying to be polite. But I found myself looking forward to his company. He noticed things Ryan never did, like how I always left the bathroom light on because I was scared of the dark, or how I hummed when I cooked. He joked about my coffee addiction, and always made sure there was my favorite brand stocked. It was harmless, I told myself. What started bothering me wasn't Liam. It was how Ryan didn't even notice how much time I was spending with his brother. I told him once that I felt like we weren't really connecting anymore, and he brushed it off, saying stress would ease up after the wedding. Then he changed the subject. Again. I caught myself laughing more with Liam than I had with Ryan in months. We stayed up talking one night when Ryan had gone to bed early. Liam shared stories from abroad, and then suddenly we were talking about life choices, what happiness really means. He said something that stuck. Sometimes we choose comfort over chaos, even if the chaos might make us feel alive. I didn't sleep well that night. Not because of anything Liam did. He never crossed a line. But because I knew I felt something I wasn't supposed to. And worse, I didn't want to stop it. I started noticing how he looked at me. Never inappropriate but never indifferent. I kept pretending nothing was happening. But inside I knew the line between loyalty and temptation was starting to blur. I told myself it was just a phase. Just a tension I missed. That it would pass. But deep down, something inside me had already shifted. And I wasn't sure if I could undo it. The week before the bachelor party, Liam and I were alone more often than we should have been. Ryan was buried in work, too busy to notice the silence growing between us. I tried convincing myself that what I felt for Liam was just proximity, loneliness filling in the cracks. But it was more than that. His presence unsettled me, not in a threatening way, but in a way that made me feel too much. We were finalizing details for Ryan's weekend in Vegas. Liam asked if I could help plan something more personal, something Ryan would remember. We sat at the kitchen table, sharing a bottle of wine. I don't remember who leaned in first, but the conversation turned from logistics to feelings faster than I expected. I mentioned how the wedding felt more like a task than a celebration. He listened without interrupting, eyes fixed on mine like he was waiting for something I didn't want to say out loud. He told me he always wondered what it would be like if he'd met me first. I froze, unsure how to respond. That kind of comment should have made me angry. Instead, it made something stir. He didn't move closer, didn't try to touch me. He just looked at me like I was more than Ryan's fiance, like he saw me as a whole person. And for a moment, I wanted to be seen like that. I pulled back, said we shouldn't talk like that. He nodded and dropped it immediately. But the weight of what almost happened hung between us like a thread waiting to snap. I avoided him the next day, but every time I passed him in the hall or heard his laugh from another room, I felt it. That ache, that terrible curiosity. I told myself I was in control. But I started thinking about him when I was alone. When Ryan kissed me goodnight, it felt mechanical. I hated myself for the comparison. Liam wasn't trying to steal me. He was just there. Honest. He didn't ask for anything, but he didn't hide what he felt either. I didn't realize how much I missed being wanted. Before they left for the party, I helped them pack. Ryan was distracted by a last-minute call. Liam lingered behind, watching me with an expression I couldn't read. When I told him to take care of Ryan, he said, "I'll take care of what matters." He didn't smile, didn't explain. Just walked away. That night I got a message from him. Just one line. "Wish you were here instead." I stared at it for almost an hour before deleting it. I didn't respond, but I didn't sleep either. I just kept thinking about that look he gave me, the tone in his voice, and the fact that a single sentence had shaken something inside me I was no longer able to ignore. Ryan's flight was delayed. He called to say he had to head straight to a client site after the bachelor party. Work emergency. He sounded apologetic, but I'd heard that tone too many times to believe it meant anything would change. Liam came back alone, dropped his bag by the door, and barely looked at me. There was no greeting, no smugness, just silence. I told myself to act normal, like nothing had changed, like I hadn't been checking my phone every 10 minutes during the weekend for a text that never came. We passed each other in the kitchen. Neither of us spoke. Later, I found him on the balcony, arms crossed, staring out into nothing. I asked if everything was okay. He didn't answer at first, just turned to me and said, "This is messed up, isn't it?" I didn't pretend to misunderstand. I said yes, it was. But I didn't move. I didn't walk away. And neither did he. The space between us closed without either of us meaning to. When he touched my arm, I didn't flinch. I looked up, and he was already there, watching me like he'd been holding something back for too long. When he kissed me, I let him. No excuses. No resistance. It felt like stepping off a ledge, and I didn't care if I fell. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't wild. It was deliberate, quiet, and terrifying. Every moment carried weight. Every touch felt like a decision. I wasn't thinking about consequences. I wasn't thinking about Ryan. I was thinking about how alive I felt in that moment. How long it had been since someone looked at me like I was the point, not the background noise. Afterward, we didn't speak. I lay there beside him, heart racing, guilt already creeping in. And for the first time in months, I cried. Not because I regretted it, but because I knew what it meant. Liam rolled over, and I thought he was going to say something, but he didn't. He just lay there quietly, eyes closed, arms crossed, like he was trying to forget it even happened. Morning came too fast. Ryan called around 9, cheerful and casual, completely unaware. Said he'd be home by evening. I swallowed the panic and smiled through the call. Told him I couldn't wait to see him. When I hung up, I felt sick. Liam got up, said he'd go stay at a friend's. No explanations. No apologies. I nodded. I didn't ask him to stay. I didn't ask him how he felt. The room felt colder with him gone, but I didn't stop him. I sat in the silence, fully aware that a line had been crossed, one that couldn't be erased or rationalized. I told myself it would be the last time, that what happened didn't have to mean everything. But I knew I was lying. What scared me more than the betrayal was how little I wanted to take it back.